is up. I hope that the wind noise isn't too loud. Today we're going to be doing just one more step in our track preparation for next month. We're going to be installing wheel studs. What do you need? This is a very simple, quick and easy task. I'm using 90mm studs. They're rated for 12mm spacers and above. The 75mm studs are the ones I run in the rear, and those are rated only up to a 12mm. Okay, we're on to the first step. The first step is to hit these threads with some brake cleaner. Then, if it's been a while, or your car is over about 100,000 miles, mine's about to hit 200,000 miles in 3 miles, I'd hit it with an M12 by 1.5 thread chaser. I'd just go through, make sure the threads are as clean as possible. I replace my studs maybe once every 3 years with track duty. They do recommend doing it once every year, but I think that's overkill and I don't race my car. Yeah, so I only do this maybe once every 3 installations. Definitely will significantly increase the life of your threads. Skip straight to brake parts cleaner, spray it in every single hole, give it a liberal amount. You're not hurting anything. If your brake calipers are painted, obviously keep it away from that. That would be bad. Toothbrush or something like that works really well for this. I just go in there and I give her a nice little cleanup, kind of like just shoving a paper towel down there. While you're waiting for the brake cleaner to fully evaporate, this is when I like to install all my red Loctite. You can use 262, 263, or the high temp 272, but it's not necessary in my opinion. So I just put a little dab. You can see how little I'm using on every single one, and it will slowly go down and cover the threads, kind of like the first one's already doing. Let it sit for a good, minute or two, and it starts to tack up. Before you put the red Loctite onto the threads, I also hit the studs themselves with some brake cleaner. They often come with a little bit of grease or oil on them to keep them from corroding. Go ahead and clean those real well before you apply the Loctite. Back to the installation. Your rotor, because this is the front, is going to move, so it does help to have a friend. Put his foot on the brake. However, these are only being torqued to about 20 foot-pounds, so you should be able to hold the rotor and do it by hand. So the first thing I do is I take my sacrificial nut. If they're cone-shaped, you want to put the cones facing each other. You can do this with regular M12 by 1.5 nuts. Everybody kind of understands how the double nut method works. Go ahead and get your 17mm box end for the inside. I'm just going to use my torque wrench. I know technically you shouldn't use your torque wrench as a breaker bar, and then go ahead and just tighten these together as tight as you can. On low torques like this, I always set it to the minimum torque value because I know I'm going to over torque it. There's no way this thing is perfectly accurate down to 20 foot-pounds, so I set her right at 20. Go ahead and screw your stud in. Doesn't matter the order. Screw it in as far as you can by hand. Go ahead, put your torque wrench on the outermost nut, hold your rotor, and turn her until she clicks. If you notice that your nuts are spinning but the stud is not moving, that means that you don't have your nuts double nutted together enough. So just go ahead, put your box end back on there. Your torque wrench is totally fine to do this while it's on the stud. Give her another torque and you're good. Now when you're undoing it, it's important to have the box end wrench on there so that when you're loosening the nuts away from each other, you're not actually turning the stud and loosening it. So this one's got a nasty piece of metal barb coming off. That's why I call these sacrificial. Go ahead and remove these, and there you go. Your first stud is installed. Just repeat the process for the other 4 or the other 16 if you're doing your whole car. And that's it. Just let your Loctite set for at least an hour before driving. It really takes 24 hours to fully cure. And that's all there is to it. This is what she looks like in the front with the studs installed. You can see they're longer to accommodate spacers. This is it installed in the rear, and these are 75mm spacers, so they are shorter, but I'm not running a spacer back there, so you can see that the exposed threads look about the same as the front. For those Style 5 fans out there, you can actually space these out correctly with the correct stud length, so that the face cap will actually still fit over the studs.